All right, let's see what we got here. We got Genesis chapter 31. Halfway was 25. So they're going a little faster. So many of the stories in Genesis kind of speak for themselves. You just kind of point out some subtleties and the greater meaning. It's so important when you're reading these stories to fit them into the larger narrative of Genesis, divine narrative, and the author's narrative. It's the same thing. And then the narrative of the entire story. And that's particularly true with these people, Abraham, Jacob, who was about to become Israel, and then the 12 tribes, and particularly Judah. And there will be a story. There's really only two heartwarming. Genesis is a story of tragedy. After Genesis chapter 2, it's basically a story of tragedy, in the midst of which there's promise in chapter 12 to Abraham. And there's really only a couple heartwarming stories in the whole book. Hagar is a happy ending because she will end up making it to Egypt, and she will get a son for her she will get a wife for her son Ishmael. And then he ends up to the east where nothing good happens in Genesis, hardly. But he's going to come back and help bury Isaac with, I'm sorry, what am I talking about here? Ishmael. Who did they bury? Abraham with Isaac. So that's kind of that's good. But there's really only two that I will call heartwarming. The first one is coming up with Esau. And then the next one's going to be a long ways away in about 44 with Judah. And we'll get to that one later. Considering the stories we're about to hear concerning Judah, the heir, the descendant of the Messiah, the line of the Messiah. Keep that in mind when we get to Judah here in a couple chapters. But anyway, Jacob's about to flee again. He fled from Canaan in the middle of the night, so to speak, to get away from Esau so he didn't get killed. And then now he's worn out his welcome in two things have happened at the same time. Number one, God is telling him, you're moving back to Canaan now. But the other side of it is he's worn out his welcome and he can't stay there anyway. So he's got to flee Haran, Paddan Aram, where Laban is. And so he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, which is Esau on the one side and Laban on the other. And, it's kind of his own making. On the ground, he really did it to himself. And, I've said before that I don't think that Abraham was planning on returning from Egypt at the end of chapter 12, I think it was. And he got to Canaan. He got to Canaan after God told him to leave Haran. And he promptly went down he lived at Bethel, I think, and then he promptly went down to Egypt and basically delivered his wife to the Pharaoh, the king, to her harem. Well, you don't do that that's not like a contract where he only gets her for a year or something. That's it. So that looks to me like in his mind is permanent. He's staying in Egypt. And so events outside of Abraham's will intervene, specifically through Pharaoh, to run him back up into Canaan. And that's exactly what happened. He was involuntarily sent back to Canaan. And Jacob now is involuntarily sent to Paddan Aram, and he is involuntarily being sent back to Canaan, where he's going to face the music. He could only, I don't know what you want to call it, delay the day of reckoning with Esau. And he has no reason to believe that Esau's wrath is lessened. And you have to ask the question at some point here, did he ever really plan on going back to Canaan? Or was he planning on staying in Paddan Aram like I think Abraham was planning on staying in Egypt? So I don't know. He's having visions of God telling him things. So, but on his own, I don't know. I don't know what, when he said, let's see, earlier in the chapter, the previous chapter, right here, he says, give me just out of nowhere, after Rachel has Joseph, number 11, send me away that I may go to my own place. Oh, he is going back to his own country. All right. I didn't notice that. So he plans on going back to his own country. He's not just going someplace else. He has in mind that he's going, this is, 7 years before he actually leaves, or maybe something short of it. His plan is to go back to Canaan. And God will now intervene and say, that's enough, now's the time, and off he's going to go. But that's the story now. How is he going to get out? How is he going to get out from underneath Laban's boot? How's he going to get Laban's boot off his neck? And in order to do it, he's going to rely on a deception. Just like he seems to have relied on a deception to gain his flocks, although Laban deserves every bit of it. In the narrative, it's interesting. Jacob has now become rich, and the narrator intervenes to make sure that it's understood that God is the one making him rich, even though Jacob has this thing with these divining, I don't know what you want to call them, the rods that he puts in the feeding, near the feeding troughs or something like that. It's all kinds of weirdness in the last chapter, the mandrakes and so forth. Mandrakes and whatever. Anyway, that takes us to 31. So we're headed towards this confrontation we knew was always coming. In the previous story with Isaac's future wife, Rebecca, and the servant, Abraham's servant that went to Paddan, the same place, in the same house, that's a happy ending, if you don't mind arranged marriages. He gets there, everything aligns. Rebecca then goes back to Canaan, and they live ever after. I don't know that I would say happily. They live ever after. Let's put it that way. And so here, this was not that smooth sailing, that direct, that linear straight line up to and back from. This is chaos. And so now it's time to go. And so we'll do, look at the first 9 verses here. Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons. That's the first time we've heard from them, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father, he has made all his wealth. So stop right there for a second. In their minds, it's addition by subtraction. It's a zero-sum game. Jacob's wealth is at the expense of Laban's, even though it's obvious that Laban's wealth is the work of Jacob. Now, had Laban been a different person, it didn't have to be that way. They both, God is perfectly able to have them both prosper, but that was not a part of the divine plan, because in this plan, it becomes it just becomes so obvious that God is superintending the situation. And part of it is to watch him basically do what he does to Laban as well. He deserves it anyway. Jacob saw the attitude of Laban, and behold, it was not friendly toward him as before. Then Yahweh, that's the Lord right there, said to Jacob, return to the land of your father. So 2 things happen at the same time, coincidentally, right? In the human narrative, Jacob notices that Laban don't like me anymore, and he knows where that's going to go. At the same time, in the divine narrative, God is saying it's time for you to return back. So, either way, it's not like he's got a happy situation up there and he can say, I don't want to go. I want to stay right here. That's not happening. He needs to go. Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. And so there you have that reference to the land of your fathers. Well, they don't really even have any land. So when he says the land of your fathers, he's referring to the outcome of a promise that is now as good as realized. He just refers to Canaan as not Canaan, a foreign land where Isaac and Abraham were visitors, travelers, nomads. It's their land, the land of your fathers. I think that's what's going on there. To your relatives, and I will be with you. More on that in a minute. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to his flock in the field. He's out working. And said to them, I see your father's attitude that it is not friendly toward me as formerly, but the God of my father has been with me. So he sees both the human and the divine side of the narrative. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. We weren't privy to that. We don't really get any details on that, so we'll take his word for it. However, God did not allow him to hurt me, so he can see God's higher providence here and protection. If he spoke thus, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the flock brought forth speckled. And if he spoke thus, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock brought forth striped. So even though he was doing the stuff with the rods, whatever that was, he sees that it was the providence of God that was on his side. Thus God has taken away your father's livestock and given them to me. Well, I don't have any reason to doubt that. So that appears to be exactly what happened. It came about at the time when the flock were mating that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, male goats, which were mating, were striped, speckled, and mottled. Then the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, and he said, here I am. And I said, here I am. He said, lift up your eyes and see that all the male goats which are mating are striped, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. So there you see once again the synchronicity between the divine and human narrative. I am the God of Bethel. Uh-oh, Bethel. Why does Bethel matter? How far do I want? Oh, let's just keep going. Why does Bethel matter? What happened at Bethel? That's one thing that happened. What else happened at Bethel? He had a dream there.
He also built an altar and said, if you will bring me back, you'll be my God.
Yeah, we'll go look at that in a minute. Yeah, a lot happened at Bethel. Bethel is, in many ways, in a book of origins, which Genesis is, Bethel is another beginning. That's the place where Abraham built his first altar, and that's the place where it all began, in a sense, for the people of Israel. Because that was the time when Jacob, when God, Yahweh, God Almighty, in a way, at least in Jacob's consciousness, God Almighty became his God. And now, not only is he returning back to Canaan, he's returning back to the land of his God, to his God. And God is right there saying, okay, before you go, let's talk about Bethel. Let's talk about the beginning here. I think that's what's going on here. So he just says it straight up. I am the God of Bethel. Strange way to say it. He's not the God of your fathers, Abraham and Isaac. I am the God of Bethel. I'm the God of the place where you made a vow, where you anointed a pillar, and where you made a vow to me. And I'm here to collect on my vow. I didn't forget. You prospered here. I kept it. Now you're going to keep it. So you made a vow. I've kept mine. We'll go back and look at it now. I forgot which chapter that was.
That would be chapter 26.
You sure?
Yeah, maybe 28.
A lot of references to Bethel, huh?
Yeah.
So he gets the dream. Your descendants will. So here's the God of Bethel talking. What does Bethel mean? This is where this was said. Verses 13. I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give to you and to your descendants. But you got to be here to get the land. Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth, So it's a repetition of the promise that he made to Abraham first and then Isaac. He's going to do it. He did it with all three of them. And you will spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. And in you and your descendants shall all the families of the earth be blessed. That's Genesis chapter 12, verses 1-3. I am with you and will keep you wherever you go. And I know you're going to Paddan Aram. And I will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. He just didn't know it was going to be 20 years. And it would be nightmare with Laban. The whole time, though, God was over it, watching the whole thing happen. And for his own reasons, that's the story. Those are the events. And he said, okay, that's enough. And now I'm going to take him back. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God and the gate of heaven. Now he appears 20 years later. I am the God of Bethel. The beginning. If God will be with me, verse 20, if God will be with me and will keep me on this journey that I take and will give me food to eat and garments to wear, and he will do far more. And I return to my father's house in safety, then the Lord will be my God. There's the vow. Yahweh will be my God. And he sets up a stone. The stone which I have set up as a pillar will be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you. So, origins. That's the place. If you want to think of it as the equivalent to, it's not really, but where a Christian dedicates his life to Christ for the first time. Well, this is the moment when Jacob said, all right, this one's going to be my God.
Is he putting conditions on it though?
Sure looks like a covenant arrangement, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now you have a covenant arrangement from the superior to the inferior, from a king to a vassal. But I don't know that I call it a condition. It's more of my hunch is this is how this worked. The superior says, this is what I'm going to do. Well, it's not unconditional from the vantage point of the vassal. The vassal now responds with what he's going to do. And what he's going to do is exactly what the superior, the king, expects him to do, which is exactly what Jacob says he will do. You will be my king. So that's that. That's the purpose of the meeting of Bethel. In the history of Israel, what's a more important city than Bethel? Jerusalem. I don't know that it gets any more important than Bethel, except for Jerusalem. He's going to rename it, or he did rename it from Luz to Bethel. He's the reason it's named Bethel. That's also what makes it so tragic that Bethel was turned into a center of idolatry for the northern kingdom of Israel when the kingdom partitioned in 931 BC after Solomon died. And Rehoboam, Solomon's son, became king in the south, Judah and Benjamin, and Jeroboam became king in the north. And the first thing with the other 10 tribes, and the first thing Jeroboam did, he says, I don't want these people going back to Jerusalem. I got to unhitch them from Jerusalem because that's the south. So the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to take what's precious to them and I'll wipe it out. Rather than going to Jerusalem to worship and to sacrifice, I'll make a sacrificial center in Bethel in the south to make it easy on the people in the south, because Bethel's just a hop, skip, and a jump from Jerusalem. And I'll make another one on the northern side where Dan is. I'll put another center of sacrifice and worship there to make it easy on the people from the north. So they don't have to go, so they won't go to Jerusalem. But that's what Bethel became. And the city that was the landmark beginning city, the first place where Abraham built an altar, becomes the center of idolatry by the close of the United Kingdom period. Saul, David, and Solomon.
Well, Bethel might have been one of the places the tabernacle was set up for a while, too. when they came into the land.
Yeah.
Shiloh and Bethel was the places that they went.
Yeah, it's hard to track the tabernacle there for a while, where exactly it was. It's amazing that it even, apparently the Levites were faithful enough that they kept that. They kept those services, those worship pattern going. By the time of David, they just went to Jerusalem, but they knew how to do it almost, except for the guy that stuck his hand out to steady the cart. So that's what's going on here. That's the point of where you made it. He comes down and he calls in the chips. You made a vow, and now you're going to keep it. Arise, leave this land, return to the land of your birth, beginnings. Now that's Rachel and Leah. That's what he explains to Rachel and Leah. And he's going to get buy-in with the two, I don't know, upper wives, and then you got the two lowers, Bilhah and Zilpah. And Rachel and Leah said to him, we finally get agreement from the sisters. They're finally on the same page. And ironically, it's the page where they both agree they got to leave their father. Go figure. Rachel and Leah said to him, do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Pure pragmatism. Are we not reckoned by him as foreigners? So there's some history there. You get the sense that Laban is this guy who treats everybody as a useful commodity. For he has sold us. What do they mean by that? And has also entirely consumed our purchase price.
Like they're slaves?
No, it didn't he sell them for work?
Yes. So he used to labor for her wife.
Yeah, so their dad already out, but what he was gonna get from them. He doesn't value them, they've been purchased. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're right, then when Laban chases them down later, you can see the dishonesty just ooze out of him. If you're right, you'll see what he says here in a little bit. Surely all the wealth which God has, now they can see the divine plan, addition by subtraction. Surely all the wealth which God has taken away from our father belongs to us and our children. So why on earth would we stay here? Yeah, do whatever God has said to do, has said to you. Everybody's on the same page at this point, except of course for Laban and his sons, because his sons were going to get the inheritance, right? Remember how this started? Laban's sons said, let me reinterpret, Jacob has taken away our inheritance that we were going to get. There ain't no inheritance. Jacob got it. Well, they're not going to let that happen. So when he's going to go chase Jacob down, he fully intended to take it all back. And who knows what they were going to do to Jacob.
So they're upset because the sheep were breeding and giving Jacob the kind of sheep he needed to be able to have something.
I don't think he's thinking about it that all he sees is I had it, now you have it. It was a zero-sum game for Laban. I'm going to add, it's addition by subtraction as well. I'm going to milk out of you everything I can get and give you as little as I can get. And that's why Jacob can say, he changed my wages 10 times, treated me like a slave. Because he fully intended, he will say it later, he fully intended on leaving Jacob with nothing.
The interesting thing is that Laban's well aware of the God of Jacob. Laban's grandfather, Terah, or great grandfather, I'm not sure, I lost track of how many generations it was. Great grandfather is the one who took Abraham out of Ur. They didn't go all the way to the promised land. They settled in Canaan. But he was aware of somehow the God of Abraham. And in all the accounts, they're aware of him. And they see that Abraham's people are getting blessed while we aren't. I can be sure that there's some jealousy there.
I have divined that the Lord has blessed me on your account.
Mhm.
So he can see it there. But suddenly, boy, have things changed.
What does it mean I have divine?
He's a idol worshiping kind of guy. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like somebody going to a meeting, and that's what it sounds like to me.
what does it mean that Jacob is using some kind of sticks?
Yeah,
To-
that has always confused me.
So now he thinks that he's been ripped off by Laban. Is the kind of guy you never win with. He wins and he wins by you losing. That's how he wins. And you could see hints of that as early as with Rebecca when the servants showed up.
He'd be a good casino operator today.
Yeah, that's that line in Rush Hour 2, because why not? It's like that movie applies to everything. Imagine taking money from people and giving them absolutely nothing in return. That's a casino. And they come back and back and back.
Well, I mean, Jacob could have said to his sons when they were complaining, you got my inheritance because we had agreement that everything was gonna go to me. And immediately after Laban agreed to this, he gives all that stuff to you. So why are you guys complaining that I took everything from your father when he took everything from me and gave it to you? So, you know,
Well, it runs in the family.
yeah,
They're not going to think that way.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, Jacob's very much like Laban.
They act out purely out of it's pure self-interest. And survival. If you didn't, there ain't no welfare system. There's no unemployment insurance, that healthcare, health insurance, none of that. Nobody cares if you starve.
Well, I mean, even Laban, when he leaves here, he's like, you're taking my children away from me.
Yeah, we'll get to
So
that.
he's almost like, Laban's almost like saying, your kids, your sons are my sons instead of yours.
Yeah. So anyway, the larger point to me is the interplay between the divine and the human narrative here.
Mhm.
And no matter what these people do on the ground, Laban, the sons, even Jacob, it doesn't make any difference. The divine narrative plays out, and God wins. I've said it before. He wins at every point along the timeline of human history, and then he wins. And there's nothing anybody can do about that. So unless somebody wants to, I've said everything I can, that I think I think I hit the high points. He appears to be a really good shepherd, though. Jacob does.
Definitely. And his sons.
Jacob arose, put his children and his wives on camels. That's money. Drove away all his livestock and all his property which he had gathered, his acquired livestock, buying of livestock, which he had gathered in, I think that's what that means, not just his herds or gaggles, his various and sundry gaggles, his gaggles of animals, which he had gathered in Paddan Aram, to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. No mention of Esau yet. When Laban had gone to shear his flock, Rachel stole the household idols that were his father's. So apparently she decided she's going to get something out of the deal. He took away our inheritance. He took away our purchase price, but it's like getting fired from your job, and on the way out the door, He'd run over and grab all the candy out of the candy jar just to get even. And you all laugh, but that actually happened at First National once, at my bank where I work. I'll tell that story when I'm offline sometime. It's fascinating. Let's see. Stole the household idols, and Jacob deceived, there's that word again, Laban the Aramean for the first time. Paddan Aram calls him the Aramean by not telling him that he was fleeing. So this idea of deception just permeates the life of Jacob from the moment of his birth. Grabbing his heel, Esau's heel. And on and on and on. And it will permeate his family all the way to the end, with Joseph deceiving his brothers at the very end. I mean, it's literally the story of Jacob's family is the story of deception. And somehow, some way, God's plan, he doesn't win by making everybody honest. He doesn't win by, he wins no matter what. The part of the majesty is he wins even in the midst of the evil. Deceived Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he was fleeing, so he fled with all that he had, and he arose and crossed the Euphrates River. We'll go look at that. Set his face toward the hill country of Gilead, which I think also he's going to name.
How was he gonna get out of there if he didn't leave without telling Laban?
They did not live in the same household. They lived in separate,
Yeah.
They're days apart.
a couple days journey apart.
Right.
Yeah, because you got a lot of flocks and stuff.
So it's saying he deceived him, but if he goes back and says, well, we're leaving now, he wouldn't get out.
That's
Well,
right.
Rachel must have made that journey back.
Yeah, how she did this, I don't know.
There's a lot of interesting things in this whole story, and part of it, our Western mindset, we just don't understand how it all works, you know? Not to mention our modern mindset.
Okay, so here's the, he's up here. The people on the feed can't see my mouse, but he's up here.
We can't see your mouse either.
You can't?
No.
No,
Okay. Panoram's very north.
All the way up at the
very
top.
Top of page.
Up there. And now he's gonna come back to Canaan, and he's going to go to Gilead, which is right here. This is where he's headed, and that's the Euphrates, the lower river right there. So he's got ways to go.
and
It's kind of like this, what's that?
Bethel's by Jerusalem.
Bethel is down here.
Oh.
Right here.
We still can't see the mouse.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Just note,
Between Jerusalem and Gito.
Okay.
yeah. All right, so that's enough. Let me.
Bethel is the very northern tip of the territory of Benjamin, which is immediately north of Judah.
Yeah, he didn't get very far. Let's look at that, actually. Does anybody remember which of these maps is the one that is my favorite? Is it,
No, he's got two in Suso.
I know.
It's the one that you keep forgetting to mark.
That's the one you said.
Well, I guess as long as it has. If not, it's got some areas.
There we go.
Good enough. How
So
can,
that's.
how can
the
Bethel-
this time.
how can Bethel not be,
Bethel was not, by the time of Jesus' day, Bethel wasn't being mentioned any longer.
the tribal divisions? That was the map.
United Monarchy.
This one. No, it's not.
It's
Well,
just
I wa-
below
I wa-
that term.
I want to get it up here so that you can, remind me the next time, because I probably am not going to rename it again. What's going on here?
You have a chance to do some coloring apparently.
I don't know what's going on.
I
Paint.
clicked on something, I don't know.
Why is
what
it
you
using
clicked on.
paint? Oh, it's this one.
Okay. So
There's-
Bethel is
There's Jerusalem, there's Bethel right there.
So they're
Yeah.
saying that Bethel's in,
Yeah.
after my Bible puts it in Benjamin. So,
Okay.
How do you really know where these divider lines were?
exactly.
They divided it by that rock over there and this tree over here, you know.
Well, I know that Benjamin was part of the Southern Territory after they divided between the North and the
Yeah.
South. And excuse me, Bethel was part of the Northern Territory.
Well, if the southern, where did the southern kingdom end?
The Southern Kingdom ended, probably with the tribe of Ephraim, because, Benjamin was with the Southern group, so.
So if it ended, if it included all this territory of Benjamin, then now you can see why Jeroboam chose to
Right,
put this as a center of idolatry so that they would not go down to Jerusalem.
right.
But anyway, Gilead is over here, this area.
Manasseh settled, Mephibosheth, yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so it's going to trip down from here like this, and then he's going to end up back in Canaan. It's got a kind of this flight from Egypt feel to it, you know, with all the flocks and herds and the women and the children and everything.
And then the pursuit.
And the pursuit, and they're going back to Canaan. And the 400, or not more than that now, but hundreds of years later under Moses, they will flee Egypt to go back to Canaan only from the south to the north. Now he's fleeing Paddan Aram to go south back into Canaan with flocks and herds and so on. So there's some parallels there as well. A lot of rhyming of stories, eerie reflections of things. And that's all I got for that part. The question of why Rachel stole the household idols, don't give her the benefit of the doubt. She stole the household idols. I don't think it was because she didn't want her father engaging in idol worship. I don't think that was the reason.
Pretty much grew up in that.
Yeah. So they're gonna idolatry is a part of Israel's life from here, from this moment. That's part of the theme of the Bible, that it's crept in even before all the sons were born. It's already there. And so it's going to continue. And you're going to see it on this side of Egypt, and you're going to see it on that side of Egypt at the incident on the mountain with the golden calf. And then you're going to see it in Judges. And then you're going to see it in 1 Samuel. Because I think Samuel is going to say, put away the foreign gods from among you, or something like that. And then you're going to see it in Solomon in 1 Kings. And then, of course, it's just total chaos.
So 2 Samuel, we finally had one where they didn't have all the elements, but they had everything else.
Yeah, I don't remember any idolatry. That, if you ask the question, given what David did, David did some monstrous things.
Yeah.
Given what he did, what made him a man after God's own heart, and fundamentally, I think it's because there's not a hint anywhere in the narratives, 1 and 2 Samuel, and at the very beginning of 1 Kings, that David ever engaged in idol worship.
It's such a sad thing, and yet, again, no, Jacob was not a missionary. There is no account of him seeking to convert his wives to follow the God of Abraham.
No.
And Jacob himself was pretty iffy until the confrontation later on.
When it was told Laban on the third day, that's how far apart they are, we already knew that Jacob had fled, he took his kinsman with him and pursued him a distance of 7 days. So we don't know how far into Gilead Jacob got. It overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. When was it named Gilead? Because we already know that cities like Bethel, the use of Bethel in Genesis chapter 12 is anachronistic. At the time that Abraham went there, it wasn't called Bethel, it was called Luz. And so it was named Bethel after the fact. So you have that kind of thing going on here.
Didn't think it's called Gilead until the time of the Exodus when, because it wasn't named after a guy named.
He's gonna name a place here in a bit. So God is going to intervene and make sure this turns out his way. Like he intervened, or a shadowy intervention, that a shadowy reflection of the Egyptian intervention, where he uses a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Only this time he's going to appear personally and settle up with Laban. God came to Laban the Aramean, there it is for a second time, in a dream of the night, and said to him, be careful that you do not speak to Jacob either good or bad. Hands off.
Doesn't that mean don't speak to him at all? I mean,
Yeah.
Apparently not.
you can't say anything nice, you can't say anything.
Well, he's gonna get a-
It was there.
He's gonna try to get a word in on Jacob, but Jacob's not having it. Laban caught up with Jacob 7 days or something. Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen camped in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said, look, if this God appears to you and says, hands off, there's nothing for you, nothing but bad can happen to you here. You lose. Why even keep going? Unless you just the kind of person that you got to get the last word in. So Laban said to Jacob, what have you done? By deceiving me, I was totally innocent, and through no fault of my own. After everything I did for you, you fled in the middle of the night, and carrying away my daughters like captives of the sword. Well, we already know that didn't happen, because he said to Laban, he said to Rachel and Leah, what do you think? And they said, they agreed, yeah, let's get out of here. Why did you flee secretly and deceive me? Second use of the word deceived. Did not tell me that I might, one of the great lies, one of the great acts of duplicity. You know what it means to be disingenuous? A person is disingenuous when they're saying one thing, but they're thinking another. And so that's kind of the worst kind of liar, because it means that every time they talk, you have cause to think they're lying. It's one thing to say, no, I did not steal your truck, when everybody saw you steal the truck. You know, everybody knows you stole it. It's another thing to say, I don't know who stole your truck. Or, you know.
I didn't steal your truck, I was filling up with gas.
You just didn't finish the sentence, so that I could drive it to California, you know, and sell it or something. And did not allow me to kiss my sons and daughter. Let's see, so that I might have sent you away with joy and with songs, with timbrel and lyre.
Finally, he actually says something that didn't have a whole bunch of hyperbole. I mean,
Seems pretty hyperbole to me.
well, what I'm saying is that's true.
Does everybody know what hyperbole means?
Exaggeration.
Over the top, way over the top.
But still, it was true. He did not allow him to say goodbye to his daughter.
Notice though, he's not saying, hey, I'll also give you a lot of stuff to go with it.
Yeah, Jacob's going to call him out in a minute.
Yeah.
And say, who do you think you're talking to? I've known you for 20 years. Did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Well, what sons? What are you talking about? Your sons. Your sons. You mean the 11 that Leah, Rachel, and the two others had? Those sons, they're my sons. That's a little foreshadowing. Now you have done foolishly. It is in my power to harm you. but the God of your father, not my God, your God, spoke to me last night saying, be careful not to speak either good or bad to Jacob. So now I'm here completely disregarding his very sound advice and pushing it right to the outer limit of what I can get away with. You have indeed gone away because you longed great. He says, now I understand that you have gone away because you longed greatly for your father's house. That's not really true either, because there's Esau back there. But why did you steal my gods? Hey, your God appeared to me in a dream and warned me, I'll kill you if you harm Jacob. But did you have to steal my gods? It's just such a strange, nobody learns anything. Lesson unlearned. It's not like he walked out of that vision with God, that dream with God, and said, noted. I dedicate my life to you. That didn't happen. You steal my gods. And Jacob replied to Laban, because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. He leaves off sons. The one with whom you find your God shall not live. In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what is yours among my belongings and take it for yourself. Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So that's the climactic moment where Laban gets checkmated by Jacob and by Jacob's God. This far and no farther. You lost. You lose. He wins. That's it. So we'll pick it up there next time. Anybody else want the last word? There you go. Abracadabra. I was expecting more from you.
It's that famous. That's the last word.
Did that turn us into Laban though?
Not yet, apparently. I hope not. I'll find out later today. See ya.